Hello, everybody, and welcome to CCA quarterfinals action here on the IPL side. My name is Kyon. On the other side, I hope I got the direction right. Yes, I did. It's the Shiny Hunter Zach himself. How are you doing this evening?
Good, Kellen. Glad to be back. We're finally into the playoffs of season 6 here for CCA. Gonna have some intergroup action as we see a couple of teams that finished around the same spot, same record, and everything between Smash Brothers and, of course, Daybreak. And the team that they will eventually face is sort of the opposite, a grudge match within Group 3. So nice to see a little bit of that parity going on in season 6's playoffs here in Division 2.
Yeah, and I want to see how these two teams play this one out. It's gonna be Daybreak, a 4-1 record out of Group 1, specifically, in Smash Brothers also 4-1. So exactly to your point, second place finishes in in Group 1 and Group 2 respectively for both teams, and this is kind of what we are dealing with here today. Now, Zach, you and I have been dealing with best of sevens during the regular season. We gotta up the stakes a little bit now. Best of 9 the rest of the way for the playoffs here. So we got 2 extra maps to start. Of course, and also for those who are just tuning in, we do have the map list available. We are ironing up some shenanigans behind the scenes, so we'll be reading out the map list for you guys here this evening. But to kick this one off, the best of 9 starts with Scorch Gorge Clan Blitz to start here, Zach.
Yeah, very famous map mode combination at this point in Splatoon 3's life cycle. In fact, interesting to see that because it's the best of 9, if it goes the distance, Clan Blitz will be the mode that we play 3 times over. So we're going to have Clan Blitz to start us out. We'll guarantee Splat Zones to be next, and then Tower Control and Rainmaker. That will be kind of the flow of things today. And then, of course, because the team that wins needs to have 5 under their belt, we'll have definitely at least 2 Clan Blitz maps to play. The one for Game 5 will be Umami Ruins way down the line. But as you mentioned, Scorch Gorge, this is a great place to start us off. Very sort of sensical area, and a great way to see how these teams are orienting their compositions. And based on the badges that they have on their profiles, I can already take some educated guesses here, Keon.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be Smash Brothers on the gold side. Blue side is going to be Daybreak. We look at the weapons here. What strikes out to you to start us off here, Zach?
Yeah, so we've seen sort of the Mint Decav come in and out of different compositions. We've also seen a little bit of the Flings up to this point. Lemon going to be piloting that. And on the opposite side of things, relatively similar in terms of what they aim to do, but they have a silver arrow spray, which is really fascinating. Carbon Deco has also been tearing up CCA at times. We've had some just amazing Carbon Deco players that we've gotten to spectate, and a lot of times compositions will revolve around this. The last time we actually spectated a Carbon Deco, they did something very similar of using this Splatling to sort of help them carve a path alongside multiple different shooters.
Yeah, I actually am really intrigued to see how Daybreak, if they can get a lot of value out of that silver arrow spray right out of the gate. That's gonna have to wait a little bit longer right away. Smash Brothers immediately cashed in on 38 points remaining, already cashing in 62 points. A lot of coverage already being used. The Reef Slider from Breakdown is gonna at least clear out the space that they need. But Zach, Smash Brothers have wasted no time, minute in, and they've already taken out 62 points out of the board.
Yeah, difficult composition to go up against. You have the 52, which has been just a killer for so long. That 2-tap potential is so nice to have. You have the Mint Decav, which can do really well up close or even poke from afar. Ace is trying to find a way to get back into it. Unfortunately, goes down. They even had the backing of the 10 missiles there from Lemon, who is going to be able to clean up and win the Roller v Roller battle. The Reef Slider from Breakdown will get the splat, but it's not going to come out quickly enough to stop. Another break on the barricade. Of course, too many penalty points to clean up there. Neku trying to see if they can sneak in and get almost all of them with 3 clams at the ready, but they will have to back off. 10 more going to the penalty spot there because it was just the power clam going in. But already Smash Brothers applying the pressure and not really letting off the gas.
I kind of love this non-stop aggression that Smash Brothers had. Of course, a little bit of an overextension will give Daybreak a chance to strike there. But Smash Brothers, I love this immediate, this up-tempo game that they are playing here. Play fast, get the pushes in, and see where they can go from there. The Reef Slider is actually going to get canceled right out of the gate. It's just going to be the one power clan being pushed in, but they will save the free clan back at base for when they needed it later. So just a one-and-done push. You at least cut the deficit just a tiny bit more, but Smash Brothers are already in prime position to strike if they find find an opening here, Zach.
Yeah, this is the struggle. When you go all in like this, the other team, if they're able to get set up, as we see a nice two-piece there, Ace looking for another one, gets it with the 52. This is exactly what I wanted to mention with the 52 and how devastating offensively it can be. Lemon getting in there and making sure that nobody can get in position on the drop down, specifically as Mars is the one designated to go back. They get more clams and just enough, in fact, to get the victory, taken out at the last second by the ballpoint, but it is not going to matter. Early and often, the name of the game here for Smash Brothers is they get the knockout on Scorch Gorge.
Smash Brothers played fast. That's really the best way to describe it, and it's fast with a purpose from what we saw throughout Smash Brothers. And I love how this team has been playing here, as well. Of course, the team hailing from Bingham. I hope I pronounced this university right. Someone's gonna correct me here. Binghamton University here, which this is actually their first ever Splatoon team. And they're already in Division 2 to start, which is phenomenal with compared to the other divisions that are out there. And it really kind of shows why they are in Division 2 right out of the gate here, Zach.
Yeah, to your point, we've talked about some of the talent that has sort of manifested itself in the various divisions of CCA, 6 at least all the way going up to Division 1 and multiple groups within each division because they are so similarly tiered skill-wise that you can't really break it apart many other ways. You sort of have to have these multiple groups to give each team a fair shake at it. And I'm glad that now we're in the playoffs, we're getting the chance to look at two teams that only dropped one game in total. If you want to look at the point differentials, not too different. Daybreak a plus 11 in their 5 games of the regular season, and Smash Brothers again finishing in second place as well in their respective group, a plus 8. So very dominant in their own fashion, not too far off either from their respective first place teams in those groups. Both teams only 3 games behind in terms of plus minus the team that finished first place. So these teams really like their individual play styles. It did well for them. And specifically for Smash Brothers there, pretty meta composition. You have the pencil there, you have the 52, the mid decaf helping to round things out. And as we move on to a very nice and neutral zones Hagglefish, let's see, Keon, if anything changes.
I want to see what changes if there are any that's available. All right, so okay, double reef slider is right out of the gate here for Daybreak. I actually love what they had right away there. If they're gonna get the zones cap right away, why not use 2 reef sliders to get that through? A couple fizzy bombs also added into the mix. So Dread Ringer, Splat Roller, and a ballpoint, which I think was actually there in the previous game as well. Want to see how Daybreak can take advantage, but Smash Bros. Wasting no time right away. They already got the first cap so far. Ain't that being used? This should help provide a little bit of pressure. They taken out the 52, which has been a menace earlier, but they're flying in with the reef slider. Everybody's moving forward, but where's the cap of the zone? It's taking a little bit of extra time. There it is. A couple members down. Lemon drops, and Daybreak with a pretty solid response.
Yeah, it's taken a few patches to sort of get the reef slider in a usable state sort of across the range here, but it is quite versatile on a map like this one where you have just a one zone map and you have the walls. It can be sort of a nice way to sneak up or clear space. We even saw it there as we see the mid decaf taken down. We saw it used to get away from these Tenta missiles, which Lemon has now built up again. They're going to target the multiple people that are on the zone there for Daybreak, as Ace is similarly going to use the 52 gal to back one member off all the way into the corner breakdown. Using that aforementioned reef slider, they're going to go down shortly after. That is the one caveat to using it, is your landing place is relatively predictable. And with 3 down yet again, a nice push from a Daybreak team that really needed it. Now Smash Brothers, the onus swinging back to them.
The onus now swinging back on Smash Brothers, and they are in great position so far to see if they can keep this pressure up. They got a bubble that's available. Kill Will to at least be able to scout somebody else. Neku is trying to dive right in, uses the bubble wisely. They get the trade on the breakdown, which is going to help them in this scenario. Breakfast is Rivers on the side. They're going to have to give up this lead here. Daybreak, that is. Smash Brothers is able to get the lead there. They are able to snuff out Breakfast. This is a very... the bubble used to pretty much protect Breakfast themselves. It is giving Smash Brothers the opening to work with here, and at this stage, Daybreak needs to find the opening that they desperately need, which he answers right then and there with everything being thrown into the zone. And Zach, a back and forth zone setup we go, but Smash Brothers got the lead back.
Yeah, not just back and forth. You saw that 3 members of Daybreak there were quite literally backed into a corner, and one of those members was spotted out. So your attention, if you're Smash Brothers, is naturally drawn as we see a nice splat there with the fizzy bomb all the way on Mars. They're backed into that corner and they're targeted, so all the attention is on them. Lemon yet again came out with the missiles as well. That's going to allow Smash Brothers to very easily clean things out. Icebreaker trying to charge their way in with a reef slider, and yet again, pretty predictable, but it has some effect. 2 down versus 3 down, just 1 member left on the side of Smash Brothers. That's going to be the entry point that needs. Sometimes all you need is that sort of tip of the spear, someone to decide, okay, I'm going to be the one that's almost the sacrificial lamb, the skirmisher, if you will, so the rest of my team can follow up and see if they can take control.
But right now, Daybreak losing this on a delayed 3 there, and I see what they had in store with that restart you mentioned before. You have that sacrificial lamb, the skirmisher, if you will, that was just trying to fly in and see if they can cause a little bit of distraction right out of the gate. But Smash Brothers was able to temper that just a little bit longer, as it looks like yet another Reef Slider canceled. This time, Breakdown goes down, and that is going to stall things out a little bit more. They're having to use the second Reef Slider in the canopy, also canceled the exact same way. Breakfast is going to have to retreat. There's 2 members that have dropped on Smash Brothers, but more importantly, they're out of the penalty points, and now the Inkjet being used at this stage. There is the roller splat that Breakfast comes out with. Another Reef Slider thrown into the zone, which is what they need. Daybreak gets the zone back. 2 members down. This should be a good chance for them to strike, but Smash Brothers extended their lead by just a bit.
Now, to their credit, they use a lot, but not everything there. They're able to deal in part with the flanker because Breakfast was able to save that big bubbler until that moment. They do go down as a result of just not having enough room. Could have maybe gotten the vertical swing off, but just not able to. Mars safely sitting on this uninkable tarp there. They're going to try and take it away from Daybreak as we approach the final minute mark. Lemon once again sitting on these 10 missiles, going to catch 3 this time, and they're going to spot them out, scattering all which ways, left, right, and center, and that is going to clear the way off of the zone. Breakdown all game has been just throwing themselves into bodily harm. They are going to get rid of their entire penalty. It's just Breakfast left. So down to 24 they go, and they're going to have 45 seconds to try and regroup and figure out a way to stall this one long enough to take it probably to OT.
They're gonna have to find an opportunity for OT, but now your members need to be the members surviving needs to be the main focus. If you are Daybreak, they got a restarter that's available, a flying and restarter on the right hand side. They take out Ace. At least it's a critical pick there. But Smash Brothers is still holding on to the zone for how long? Not how long? Just long enough. But they will lose the zone just like that. They lose the pencil on top of it. Daybreak keeps everybody alive for just a tiny bit longer. But 2 members have dropped. Just like that, Breakdown has a restart at the ready, has to just pop it right in there just to secure the zone. They're slashing a couple members across the board, but Smash Brothers gets 3 members. They're going to get the delayed wipe. That should seal the deal here, Zach. Smash Brothers starts this set off 2-0 to start this best of 9.
Fitting that we talk so much about Breakdown there, as we saw a breakdown in the strategy of Daybreak trying to get back into the game there. We see, the Reef Slider be such a crucial piece of their adjustments from game 1 to game 2. They forego the Carbon Deco strategy. They go with just the hero roller that's going to allow you the curling bomb to try and get in. You have the Reef Slider to try and, again, push your way forward into contested areas where you otherwise wouldn't have a presence because you're going up against things like the 52 that can put a splash ball down. And with a map like this one, the boxes, the way they're positioned in the middle of the map, that's basically perfectly splash wall sized on either side of that obstacle. So you have to try and figure out the timing to get through. Once again, you're sort of throwing yourself to the wolves in that regard, and have to rely on your team to back things up. In that final sort of 30 to 45 seconds, they push up, they take the zone, but just as quickly they lose those 2 team members, and that is basically the writing on the wall at that point. No time to build up specials, no time to recover, and what could have been a nice 1-1 tie is a very nice 2-0 lead for Smash Brothers.
A lot of credit, honestly, to Daybreak for at least trying to find those adjustments. But to your point, I see that the Reef Slider that Breakdown tried to use, if in multiple ways, you kind of just throwing in that Reef Slider to clear out the space or even get zones cap right away. But at the same time, where that Reef Slider explodes, now you got to find that retreat path, and that support not quite there for Daybreak in that Hegovish Market Zones map. But I feel like that idea was there, just not as executed the way they would have hoped. Now we move on to Mekomar Tower Control for game number 3 before we eventually hit up Undertow Spillway Rainmaker for game 4. But game 3, Mekomar Tower Control, from what I'm gathering from Daybreak, I wouldn't be surprised if there are weapon changes.
Yeah, shout out to the TOs. I think this map list is just a banger after banger of consistencies across high-level Splatoon tournaments. And so if you're going to go Tower Control, this is definitely one that we've seen with more regularity. Used to be we saw a lot of Splat Zones, and then even a little bit of clams on this map. You can kind of do basically everything. Don't really see a ton of Rainmaker, but outside of that, great map for this, and Mako Mart, very close first checkpoint, and it's kind of situated in a lower elevation and right by that sort of very long, elongated sniper perch. Not that many snipers will be the exclusive ones to set up there. Lots of weapons with that range can reach the tower, so that's going to be a big hurdle to get over, and a lot of teams surprisingly don't have too much trouble with it because it comes on the back of these sort of 3 down situations or full knockouts. And that's going to be kind of the MO that you're going to be wanting to go for. So if you're Daybreak trying to recover, definitely trying to not get into a 3-0 hole, you're going to want a composition that can protect yourself on the tower while still having enough aggression to get that first checkpoint.
And I want to see if they have any in store. Neku is going to switch off the decaf onto the shot, and Breakdown decides the Silver Spray is no longer working anymore. The Tri-Slosher Nouveau is now the one that we're going to see here from Breakdown. This is a very good change. They're opting for that Tri-Slosher with the cooler available, so I want to see how that's going to play out here. Smash Brothers and Daybreak kind of stuck into this neutral game to start things off here, Zach.
Yeah, tight hallways on this map. I think a weapon with a good amount of spread like the Tri-Nouveau that can give you a cooler is a great choice. Icebreaker going to go down there as Neku tries to get so much of this unpainted map. Smash Brothers doing a great job of winning these early fights, and that helps to set the momentum and pace for the rest of the game here as Daybreak is going to try and come back. Smash Brothers getting the benefit now of this cooler. Lemon protecting it even because it can be like Moth Steel Flame and that all-important first checkpoint. Daybreak not even able to get back to the aforementioned sniper perch to contest it. 1v1 trade. It's going to be both tactical members going down, but most of the splats are going against Smash Brothers there, so they do get that first checkpoint, but it's a long way to the second one, and they do not even make it halfway through.
Not able to make it to that second checkpoint when they needed it. That should be all right. Like, that at least clears out the first checkpoint for when they get another push later, if that does occur. But Windbreak and Daybreak, the rest of the crew is still trying to see if they can make it happen. I believe the cooler has been popped as well. The rates are not going to be popped right away. As the Dreadringer was trying to swim up to the tower in that situation, and Azuka, I believe, gets 2 members on the right stack, and that's going to allow Smash Brothers to move forward there. The cooler being popped for full aggression, and we've seen the name of the game here, full aggression and being able to get the picks that they need has been playing out super perfectly here for Smash Brothers, but they do lose 2 by themselves, make that a delayed 3, so they will have to retreat again. Only 1 measly point it gets cashed in here, Zach.
Yeah, but to your point, that's a special that we haven't talked about that has been so good for quite a long time now. That Trizuka, for a composition where you are craving some extra range, that thing comes through in spades, able to pick up some clutch splats from very far away. And this map has relatively good sightlines. As Windbreak going to pop the Inkjet, try and see if they can get a couple of picks. They were sort of locked in on this right-hand side box area. They're going to get taken down in the air. Ace looking for when they're going to find it in Breakfast. Gets the second there on the Icebreaker, and there gets some help from a teammate chasing Breakdown down all the way back into their spawn. They're going to get the thirst for it, and that is a huge opening for Smash Brothers.
Oh, Smash Brothers almost feels like the same idea. Ace and everybody else is able to follow suit. Neku gets a Zuka pick onto Windbreaker, just going to clear out even more space than before. But look at how cohesive Smash Brothers is playing together here, Zach. It's almost incredible and almost a beauty to watch here coming out of this team that have just kind of banded together here for this first season. As it is going to be the second checkpoint being cleared, the third checkpoint, the next one up. Daybreak losing 3. This is going to be the writing on the wall here, Zach. And as this is a dominant performance out of Smash Brothers, a 3-0 lead to start.
At least from what we've casted, this composition of maybe a roller joining with double shooter or even sometimes triple shooter with a backline is so difficult to contest with. It's great at basically every range. You can feel safe that somebody has your back. You can feel like you are able to push in and get the space that you need, especially with Lemon on the Flings roller, where you can spot out the enemy team and sort of chase them out of whatever position they're trying to hold with those Tena missiles. It's such a difficult composition here for Daybreak to come back with, and they're making these micro adjustments. I do like that they're not just throwing everything away and trying to start from scratch. They are holding on to what strategies help them in the regular season to make it to this point, but it must be so frustrating to try and find a way to take out these different components that are all spaced so equivocally and so well that they are protecting themselves and keeping themselves safe, because you can't look any further than the next guy in front of you, and the guys in front of Daybreak right now are absolutely hammering them from start to finish with this aggression.
And Game 4 being Undertow, Spillway, and Rainmaker is coming up, but yeah, the thing that we have noticed so far is Daybreak is trying to find that response from Smash Brothers. I feel like it's not just the weapons itself, it's the way they play together. It's like it's almost that aggression, just but all in one note, all in one tune. It's so harmonized together. So it's like, all right, if we're able to find an opening, they're basically just moving forward and see if they can take more than what they got right away. I feel like I see this a lot in more towards mid to high level play. It feels like the way Smash Brothers is playing has just been phenomenal, and honestly kind of a beauty to watch this entire way through. Daybreak, though, as you mentioned, that is kind of frustrating frustrating that you're gonna have to that what you're dealing with is pretty much a team that with that much cohesion striking big. And I feel like for Daybreak, this is almost as must win as you can possibly get, especially with how the first three maps have gone.
Yeah, and the map we're going to, you thought Trizuka was impactful on Makomart. This is going to be another one that's very similarly set up where it's linear. For the most part, you have great sight lines. A lot of the spawn areas are kind of up. And so in order to reach that elevation, you can kind of throw a Trizuka shot their way. It's got a pretty large, sort of radius to it, so it can catch multiple people off guard. If you can position it just right, you can almost blind fire it up into where the spawn area is if they're trying to come back, and that can give your Rainmaker carrier some great coverage. A lot of times teams will go to the left-hand side for that for the first pedestal, and then either take it on the uninkable path or bridge or go around the horseshoe. We'll have to see if that strategy is what these teams want to employ, or if they go to the right side and try and take it up that sort of 90-degree turn. I guess it's more so situational to what's happening within the actual game. But the story here is going to be, what is Daybreak going to do with what can be such a hectic mode like Rainmaker to turn things around? You certainly do not want to be one game away from elimination here in these playoffs.
And the thing that Daybreak really needs to find is just their tempo, their play style that really needs to start mattering here at this stage. I think we're going to be seeing an interesting substitution, I believe, from Smash Brothers End. So we're going to see the custom Explo out of Alley making its appearance on Smash Brothers. So we went away for the Silver Spray, didn't quite work out in Tower Control. Now we're going to be using it here in Undertow Spillway, and it's not just the Silver Spray that's returned. They're going to keep the Dreadringer. Double Reef Slider is back once again here, Zach.
Yeah, so the Reef Slider, and then of course you mentioned the custom Explosher. That's going to bring the Splash Wall. We don't see the 52 anymore, so they're still going to have that sort of physical barricade that they're going to have to get around. And then of course the triple splashdown. It has such great range. Even if you go down while using it, it has those two sort of extra souls that can make it difficult. But of course, it does not have the greatest fire rate, so they're going to get stuck and caught out with that Fizzy Bomb. Windbreak once again trying to get somebody with the Inkjet. They do see a spawn in. Are they going to be able to get something? Breakdown looks like using the Reef Slider to try and maintain positioning here. And for the most part, both teams try to carve themselves out a niche right now. Nobody really opting to pick up that Rainmaker until now, when Daybreak will give it a shot.
Daybreak will have an opening to make it work. Nice maneuver, by the way. They're able to take out two. Now they're having to run off from Alley. Alley just had to use that triple splashdown, but I think Ace got the pick onto the Rainmaker carrier there, and that will leave the Rainmaker sold where it stands. Windbreak is just trying to poke from distance. This is just Smash Brothers just trying to find a way to prevent this first pedestal from being broken here, and they actually may have stalled just enough time. It's just 8 being thrown in front of the Rainmaker. This Rainmaker is still going to get picked up. They keep it alive for just a little bit longer. Here comes the Reef Slider. Very hectic gameplay that is happening right here, and of course the Reef Slider and the play there from Icebreaker on that Dreadringer cashes it home. That's a much needed checkpoint clear from Daybreak.
Yeah, huge important fight and great play from Icebreaker there. They not only get the Rainmaker pedestal pop, so they don't have to worry about that the rest of the game. They actually force out the triple splash down there when they had already gone down. So that's one special off the board for a Smash Brothers team that's trying to push forward. Now, nothing currently on the board, but they do get two off and out of the way from Daybreak here. They're going to lose their Trinavo, trying to push forward here. Neku trying to see if they can sort of squeak around this same left-hand side that Daybreak was eventually able to find success in. But similarly, Daybreak keeping these high grounds available. Windbreak using the exceptional range of that ballpoint splatling. That's the full wipeout. And now, instead of letting it reset, Breakdown going to go right back to pushing it forward with Daybreak.
A lot of gold paint right in front of them, though, so they're going to have to wait for the opportunity to strike if they can find that opening. Ace going down as well from earlier, so that will just be a few extra clearances here for Daybreak if they can make it happen there. The Zuka is not going to find a pick. It's just kind of caught in no man's land there with that Rainmaker shot that was about to explode in front of them, and it's going to be 2 members down, but Alley with a critical pick with just that one shot of the Explo will slow the pacing down just a little bit, and this is going to be a slow push so far from Daybreak, but they will be able to get themselves an opening to work with here, with the Rainmaker weapon being used as well to help clear out the space that they need. Inkjet is gonna get recalled, and this is Daybreak. They're winning a lot of fights, actually. The bubble being used for the best protection that they can get, as is Alley gonna get shut down there with that triple splashdown as well. And there comes Breakdown again from the side, using that Reef Slider to clear out the space that they need. There is a little bit of movement that Daybreak was able to get out of that one, but it's gonna be 26 points remaining, but that's still a great lead that they were able to extend out of.
Yeah, lots of patience shown there by Daybreak. And I think that's super important, waiting for the exact right time. They're basically playing a game of win your ones. They're seeing a lot of sort of 1v1 skirmishes with somebody else following up after somebody wins, and then they do the opposite for the other team. So lots of just back and forth happening here, but it's going in Daybreak's favor, getting to 26. That usually can do very well, although the other team tends to be able to get to between 20 and 30 regardless of time if they position themselves well enough and if they have that first pedestal taken away, which Smash Brothers currently does not. A minute 15 left. Neku now out of the Trizuka, does not have it to be the offensive edge here, so they're going to need to look to find picks. They do find when they're under Dreadringer, and Windbreak smartly backing off and trying to get that high ground positioning, thinking about going the right-hand side, and they will. Not as well defended, so they'll get the pedestal. Now we'll have to see if they can actually take it up this right-hand side as time is winding down quickly.
Yeah, I like that as an opportunistic find of that checkpoint to help clear out some space that they need and be able to get to cash on a much further push that they were able to get down the road. Problem is with that one is Smash Bros. Losing a lot of control around this one. Daybreak playing that defense pretty stellarly, or pretty spectacularly for that matter, and now Smash Bros. Will need to find a critical push that they need. Again, if there's anything that they got, was that the first checkpoint was cleared. A lot of gold paint once again, but there are members that went down. Ace just went down on that front side, and that will basically be a slow and methodical push that Smash Bros. Are gonna need to pull off here. If Daybreak finds a pick, they got 3 specials available. They are gonna lose, I believe, 1 Reef Slider. They're the Ancients being popped. They just need to find the pick onto Alley. Alley using the terrain that Undertow offers to help guide some protection, but it only lasts for about a couple more seconds there, and that Rainmaker drops. Smash Brothers does not get the lead, and Zach, Daybreak winning this critical game 4.
I'm actually really interested at the timing with which Smash Brothers opted to pick up the Rainmaker. Alley getting it with around 15-20 seconds left before overtime, and I would think you would want to sort of delay that as much as possible. I did not see any sort of immediate pressure coming out from Daybreak at that moment. It looked like they were sort of hanging back, trying to farm specials in spawn, which of course you're going to have to contend with anyway at the points that they needed in order to take the lead. But they take it early enough to where they can afford for Daybreak to start using some of those specials early, like when they're still in the middle of the map. And that puts them, we saw Alley kind of backed up against a wall and a corner, does not give them any room or maneuverability to get around. And they're shut down as a result with about 4 or 5 seconds left to go. And that mitigates any opportunity that they have to take this one into overtime. So great defense there from Daybreak. I love the call to stay back, make sure that you have the paint and the special points that you need to make what could have been an overtime push. But man, tough to see it go down that way for Smash Brothers. Have to give Daybreak the props for getting to that 20-25 mark and holding pat to take their first game in this set.
And Daybreak's adjustments were very well defined, but I was actually also on the same boat because there was virtually no pressure from Daybreak for that Rainmaker. And when you pick it up with that 15 seconds, you could have maybe waited maybe 10 or maybe 14 seconds left on that timer to see how long you can keep that Rainmaker going. Because again, the Rainmaker itself also has a timer for where it explodes. So if you play that one methodically, and the way that Smash Brothers played is aggressive but methodical, you could have gotten a chance to strike. But that's how the game goes sometimes too. It's kind of how it all works out. Daybreak winning game 4. We now go on to the second Clan Blitz map of this map list. As you noted earlier in the cast, it's going to be the Umami Ruins Clan Blitz map coming up, and the distance to the basket much shorter. Could be expecting a lot of very aggressive pushes from either team if they can take advantage.
Yeah, it feels like one of those maps that's rarely sort of oddly diagonal in a sense, and it does not play like a very huge map. So take that as sort of one of the guiding factors in thinking about your weapon composition here. So Daybreak coming off their first win, they get success with things like the Reef Slider once again, the Trizuka comes out, lots of specials that we've seen. And now our first opportunity really to see if Smash Brothers is going to make any adjustments, if they're going to go back to what they did to pretty great effect the first time that we saw Clan Blitz in this set over on Scorch Gorge. As far as the difference between Umami and Scorch Gorge, aesthetically very similar. I think a bit smaller now on the Umami side of things than Scorch Gorge, so maybe less of mid to sort of take control of. You have the obstacle. Both maps, of course, sort of have that semi-obstacle in mid, but tons of clams should be about. It should not take you very long to go find those additional clams if you're keeping a push going. So the biggest thing is going to be about, keeping the enemy team in spawn. They just have that little ramp, and they have, of course, the sniper, the cylindrical sniper overlook on that far right side. So you do not want them to get set up. You want half your team basically, or some portion of your team, forcing them with that aggression in spawn, the rest of them searching for those clams to keep that push going for as long as possible.
Going to ultimately come down to which team can maintain that aggression, and as you noted, make sure that the enemy team respectively stays in spawn. And again, there is no spray. It's actually going to be Daybreak actually going to be coming in with the substitution. So Breakdown sitting on the bench for this particular game. Daybreak's coming out with the splash. The vanilla splash, gotta love that weapon, of course. Crab Tank now online on the side of Smash Brothers there. Okay, so you're gonna go mint decap. You got the 52 gal back in action. Pretty much the weapons that got you the game one pretty handily here. Daybreak, however, nice little start. They're able to take 2 members out. That will give them a chance to get the power climb, which they are able to. And the HN already providing pressure. And Smash Brothers gonna be a few steps back from where they could go from here.
Yeah, spotted out by the missile, so they have to back up a little bit. But I like the pick, despite them going down just now, of the V-Splash. You can set the crab up on the sniper overlook. You can perfectly pretty much paint these sort of smaller half walls with your burst bomb, but it's sort of going to the other foot now. Smash Brothers able to get control and sort of placement here in mid. Mars is exactly where you want to set up. They're even throwing the power climb forward to see if a teammate can pick it up, and they will. They're going to be able to get it into the barricade to start things off. Lemon with a full power climb. They're going to get it in to take it down to 62v2 coming out now. Ace has been so deadly. The 52 is back for Smash Brothers, getting the pick there on the breakfast, looking for the second. They try with Daybreak there. Nice trade. The push will stop, but 2 power clams going in a minute and 10. That's a nice start for Smash Brothers trying to reclaim some of their momentum.
Yeah, Ace has been a menace. In these claim blitz maps, it feels like Ace has had a fantastic read with just the pure aggression, able to win out a lot of the fights that is playing out right now. And it is going to be the 3-down I did notice from Daybreak earlier, but that is going to be slowed down just a little bit more from Smash Brothers. And now I want to see how this all plays out. The cooler is being used right away from Mars. They are going to be the one that's holding on to this cooler. Everybody's just kind of playing this one a little patiently there, looking, maybe using this 10 of missiles there as a chance for that opening right away. Icebreaker's gonna have to be dispersed a bit. That is gonna give the opening they have. That penalty point is gonna be cleared. They cash in on another power clam. It's just been nothing but power clams being cashed in on this push here from Smash Brothers, and it is just gonna be the 1 member down. There are 3 specials available. Daybreak is just gonna hold on to it. And all that being said and done, Zach, another 20 points on the board for Smash Brothers.
Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter or Mars, being the one to get that power clam in, taking it from 60 to 40 exclusively. Power clam scores, in fact, from Smash Brothers. Even threatened another one. Lemon still holding on to the power clam that they built up while the barricade was still broken. Opted smartly, I think, not to deposit that one in. That would take care of their entire penalty. It does go down as they do. They lose both the mint decap originally and, of course, the flings of Daybreak going to use the crab in mid here on this V-Splash to try and back up the members of Smash Brothers. The big bubbler going down to further protect them. Only really the pencil could, I think, do enough damage to protect them. And they use a lot of resources in mid, but still go 2 down. So what that tells me is they lose a lot of their up-close fights, and this is going to allow Smash Brothers to just take that space right back. So not getting the value out of those specials that they want, and maybe yet another opportunity here, despite holding on to 18 power clams for Daybreak, as Smash Brothers once again has control of mid.
This is going to be the intriguing thing here, because the specials that they try to use to even clear out the space, there earlier, does not seem to get the value that they needed out of this one. There feels like there's been so much gold paint at mid. Any space that Daybreak was looking for is not going to be there. There's going to be 1 power clam. That's 2 power clams gone. That is a huge chunk of the offense that Daybreak needed to keep alive. Gone in an instant. Ace is going to go down, sure, but there are so many members being cleared out. Neku already in prime position to push Daybreak backwards, and there is going to be another power clam toss, but will the follow be there? No, it doesn't look like it's going to be there quite yet. Ace and Mars just going to retreat just a tiny bit more. It's still a power clam only game from what I've seen so far here, Zach. There's going to be 3 power clams on the board for sure, but Daybreak, they need to find a way to get to crack open mid. Maybe some of these duels will help, but they lose 2 members of their own here, Zach.
You're at the point of the game where a viable strategy is just keeping the aggression up to the point where as soon as you get a power clam and you're in position, just throw it in the barricade. All you're doing is just stalling for a little bit. You don't really have any follow-up, but you don't need much follow-up. The time is not there for Daybreak where they can set it up. They've been holding on to between 18 and 20 clams now for much of this game, roughly half or more of the game, and they lose 2 again. So it's not going to be great. Ace, as you mentioned, Keon, has been doing such great work. Even if they do go down, it feels like they'll be back just as quickly, especially if they have the tactical boost coming out from the pencil. Of course, Mars going to be the one holding onto the power clam. Going to see if they can get another one in as we are under the 30-second mark. We'll hang back to see if they can get this in. The tactical will come out likely as well. Daybreak trying to do what they can, but of course the crab not especially suited for close range combat. Mars getting another power clam in, brings it down to 10. Lemon with the game on their back gets the splat. They might not even need the KO, but it would certainly be the cherry on top. 2v2 to end it off. We might go into overtime here, but it would take a lot, Keon, for Daybreak to come back on this one.
They're gonna need a lot for sure, as it's just almost non-stop winning here coming out of Smash Brothers, and it is just gonna be the full wipeout. So that power clam is gonna disappear. Both power clams gone. If they even sold this power clam and just to ensure the GGs, that's gonna be it. But yeah, both power clams just gone out of the picture. This is just game 1 Smash Brothers, to say the least here, Zach. 4-1 is the score for Smash Brothers. One more win and they move on to the next round.
Dominant. I mean, it just felt like the most shut down game that we've seen, of course, in this best of 9s. We're not done yet. One more needed for Smash Brothers here to cap this one off, for those of you at home wondering, but that one was so emphatic. I loved the offensive and defensive game. On the offensive side, they had multiple folks. Typically, the 52 was in there, sort of running around. Ace doing such a great job. You had Mars hanging around. Lemon was sitting back a little bit using the vertical flick while still building up those 10 missiles, calling out where the members of Daybreak were going to be. And then, of course, you have the pencil to cap it off, getting so frequently into that elevated part of mid and able to spot out the members or throw down the tactical as needed. And Daybreak just did not get the chances that they wanted to set up. The 1 or 2 times that they did, we talked about it during the match, but they used those 2 specials. They used the crab and the big bubbler there in mid. They have, about the range that they would want. You could maybe ask for a little bit more range to take some of those out in spawn, but it just does not get the splats that they're looking for. And as we mentioned, the folks that are not using their specials there in mid, they're pushed up and they're not winning those ones. And so that's going to use a ton of resources there. We saw so much of the time Smash Brothers hold mid and just go around looking for clams. It is quite literally that simple a lot of the time, just maintaining that space. And almost all of the game there, if not the entire game, was power clams thrown in by Smash Brothers. Not even really a need to follow it up with those regular clams. Super strong performance there in game 5.
I feel like that's the first game I've ever casted where it's been nothing but power clams. Only power clam gameplay coming out of Smash Brothers. But I mean, this was almost a dominant Clamblitz. I mean, Clamblitz has just been total dominance right out of the gate there from Smash Brothers, and I feel like they got a great team play all around, it feels like, in these Clamblitz matches. So now for Daybreak, coming into this next game, which by the way is Mahi Resort Zones, now we see Breakdown being substituted in. So we're gonna see, I believe, Ad pretty much be sitting on the bench for this one. This is gonna be basically be match point for Smash Brothers, excuse me here. Of course, Silver Spade is gonna be coming back, so is Icebreaker with the double Reef Slider comp that they're still trying to make it work. But so far, Smash Brothers, I want to see that if they keep this aggression and see if they can take this one home. Daybreak just needs to stay alive at this point.
Well, that early pick on the 52 is certainly going to help. I know Smash Brothers takes the zone first, but that's going to take one of the main offensive pieces off the board, at least temporarily, for Smash Brothers. Daybreak trying to capitalize on it. They're just able to get a couple of points. They lose their Inkjet right away. They also, I think, use the Reef Slider Icebreaker, who uses it and then goes down yet again. Look at Ace getting so quickly back into the action, sees that Breakfast is there, and on a map like this one where there's so much water, nowhere to go, they are quite literally trapped, and Ace still hungry for more.
This has been the Ace show for what it felt like. Obviously, the rest of the team is playing so phenomenal, but Ace just keeps allowing these openings to work. I feel like a lot of fights that Ace takes has just led to positive momentum for Smash Brothers, and it's now 1-for-1 trade. Again, the map now changes with 60 points remaining, 40 points cashed in for that matter. The Restarter being used, it's just there to clear out some space there. Icebreaker using that, just trying to get one member off the board. Daybreak at least gets the zones kept. They were able to win a few fights. Ace is able to get snuffed out on the left hand side of the map, and Zach, at least Daybreak stops him for a little bit longer. Now we gotta see if there's a sustained push coming up. They got 2 specials to work with. Make that one.
In that fight, it almost felt like the sort of mantra of Reef Slider being the panic button came back out. Like the fight was, you could very tell, winding down to its conclusion. And yet at the end of it, as soon as they were in the animation of popping the Reef Slider, they actually got the splat that they were looking for. So maybe more for survivability or to threaten there. Breakfast gets a nice splat there on the grating of Mars to make sure that they can back it off. They're threatening getting the lead here. Breakfast, though, not a ton that they can do other than just paint desperately. That is going to be the lead for Daybreak. Breakdown holding on to the Reef Slider. They're going to use it, see if they can get any picks, but no, hiding behind the wall is that one member of Smash Brothers. They're going to chase them down. Who else but Ace getting multiple off the board? Was that a 3-piece? Couldn't quite find the 4. Breakfast holds it down, builds up the big bubbler in the process, and while they stay alive, can't quite get Lemon. They are backed into a corner once again, and they will try to get out as best they can. Nice lead for Daybreak in a moment where they absolutely need it.
Hey, this was a time where they needed to make that one count with the way the game was progressing there, and of course Ace just doing Ace things. That's gonna be the big thing we're gonna need to keep an eye on. There is will the response be there from Daybreak to shut down Ace when it starts to matter there. And it's so far they're able to respond to the challenge. They just gotta take the pick there onto the flank, so it is gonna be the trade. But 3 members down from Daybreak make that the full wipeout. Now Smash Brothers has a lot of room to work with, knowing that the wipeout is fully there. Ace is trying to be in prime position with Neku also supporting them, and Smash Brothers in very strong position right now. The Zuka finds a pick, that could be bad news. And this is the 3rd shot, does not seem to land. 2 Reef Sliders are available. I want to see if these Reef Sliders are used pretty spectacularly here. 2 minutes left to go, and the Reef Slider already popped, takes the pick onto Neku at the end of the day. Here's the second one flying in. Whoa. They get another pick. That's Mars going down there. More importantly, the zones flip the other direction, Zach, so Daybreak at least holds on.
Yeah, call it double trouble. This is one of the first times in the set where I can really see the appeal of the double Reef Slider. They used it to get the splat. That one member, I think, was about to go into the water, so maybe catching them between a rock and a hard place, but getting the splat there, and it paints so much of the zone. Now, that time, though, they use it, get taken down almost immediately, and that's the other side of that coin, is Smash Brothers, when they're set up and when they have their awareness about them, when they have time to react, that is how well they deal with this double Reef Slider composition. Neku here trying to avenge their last performance on the Trizuka, seeing if they can get another pick breakdown, just barely avoiding that one. And if nothing else, backing off the members of Daybreak as they are getting so close to taking the lead. Windbreak trying to stop that with the Reef Slider breakdown as well coming in. They're able to stop them at 25. Are they able to get any more? But no, they sneak around and Smash Brothers gets the lead as we hit the minute mark left.
1 minute more, with the minute mark to go. Now things could potentially be perilous for Daybreak, and they don't have a response. That was a 3-piece, I believe, from Neku as well, and that just cleared out 3 members from Daybreak. Ace using the splash wall gets the follow-up pick. The delayed wipe is there, and Smash Brothers in prime position to try to take this one home. Now we gotta look at the specials here from Daybreak. They don't have much farmed up. They will have an HI at the ready. They will have a Reef Slider at the ready as well, but they're gonna have to use this one right away to at least get the capital zone, which they are able to. But can they win the fights that they need it so far? Daybreak is still 2 members dropping just like that. They get the pick onto Ace. That was pretty nice. But where is that follow-up? Where can the follow-up be heard? Because if they don't get the zones cap, that's going to be it for Daybreak, as it's going to be out the penalty points here for Smash Brothers. They're using this bubble right now to protect themselves as well as Iceberg actually having to use this to clear out space. They more importantly get control of the zone. They will hopefully try to get OT, but again, they're going to be right on a timer. They get 2 members. They get 3 members out here, Zach. This is going to be good chances for Daybreak to strike.
Yeah, one of the last opportunities to test their defense for Daybreak. They haven't seen much of it, but they've got a couple of things at the ready here. Breakdown, mostly with this Reef Slider. Now the Painting Edge is going to come back out from Smash Brothers. The Tana Missile's going to come back out from Spawn, and they're not quite going to find too much. Ace going to go down with Breakdown as the penalty points are gone. They're getting the picks that they need. Neku desperately trying to survive on the point. They even get the Trizuka out, but it's not going to be enough. And Daybreak, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat, staves off the Smash Brothers aggression there, and in overtime is going to take zones on Mahi Mahi for their 2nd win of the series.
That was a strong finish from Daybreak. I mean, I think you and I may have felt a little nervous with the way that entire almost 15 seconds or less sequence was playing out, because Daybreak needed the zones kept to at least get the overtime session in play, and they needed to win out some of the fights. The way the Reef Slider's been used has either been trying to find picks or trying to get that cap onto the zone, but where would that follow-up be? I think I saw a Reef Slider explode near Ace, which, as we noted, Ace's name multiple times in this set alone has been a dominant factor for Smash Brothers to push forward, and when Ace went down, I felt like that turned the tides a bit for Daybreak to win some of those fights, and my goodness, Zach, I was worried there for a hot second, but there too, Daybreak able to get the victory in that one. Keeping that set alive is really important for them now at this stage.
Yeah, funny you mentioned Ace. One of the points I want to bring up is for how much we have hyped up, and duly so, the offensive presence that Ace has been. I think Neku, with that three-piece, as you mentioned, was the one that had maybe the most pivotal moment in that set before Daybreak was able to sort of come back. That was massive for them, able to get the triple splat there to ensure that they had some survivability left in them. Very hotly contested when both teams were at around the 23-24 range. That allowed them to sort of come back and get that lead for the time being. And that was, a moment where we may not have even needed overtime at that point for Daybreak if Neku had not been able to hang on and get the splats that they needed to hold it down in the final few seconds. Now, we know, of course, how that match ended, and Daybreak able to come all the way back. And I like the substitution there. One of the big points and maybe one of the more underrated pieces that Smash Brothers has been able to utilize is Mars on that pencil. You sort of find ways to come about that, and you have, of course, your own backline on the ball point, able to sort of from the skies take a look at things, see where, especially before the water comes out, where everybody is positioned, and that helped them all the way back. It feels like forever ago, but at the beginning of this map, have the strong start that they needed. That even though they weren't the first team to take over the zone, they made their point when taking it back, and it ultimately led them to success here in game number 6.
Game number 7 is an awkward map mode combination, Zach. Be ready for this one. It's Humpback Pump Track Tower Control. The tower pathing is a bit awkward right there. And now a major substitution for Smash Brothers on that side, along with Daybreak as well. We're gonna need to give ourselves a moment here. Breakdown on the Tri Nouveau, and Linky is gonna be the one running the heavy edit this time. So we saw the pencil from earlier. Now the heavy edit's gonna be in play here, Zach. Gonna be intrigued to see how these substitutions play out.
Yeah, so we talk about Mars, and of course Mars comes right out. Linky going to be the one to sub in, and they are going to be the cooler player of choice, swapping over to make it Splatling be Splatling in sort of the most backline of the weapons present here. And you mentioned this is sort of the most oddball of the map mode combinations. Usually you would see Rainmaker on this map, but Tower Control going to be what we're starting with here as Smash Brothers getting immediately. You can see how close that first checkpoint is. You're not even fully off of that raised surface. 3 down already forced against Smash Brothers by Daybreak, so they're going to shut that push down quite immediately. We're going to also look at how Breakdown bringing back once again the Tri Nouveau, so that is going to be their cooler weapon of choice. The Dreadringer still working for the most part for them, or something that they want to bring. And another thing that for Smash Brothers they have to lean on, and what's allowed them to get the tower back in this case, is the 10 missiles from that Flings Roller. And it is so difficult sometimes on this map in particular to move about exactly how you want to.
And that's going to be the interesting thing, is not only just this maneuverability around the map. Now, again, I always like to comment this tower pathing. It's so awkward the way the tower kind of zags here at the stage, especially on such a small and condensed map. I'd be intrigued to see how each team plays this one out. First checkpoint, it did get cleared, by the way, from Smash Brothers, but that's pretty much almost that's gonna be a checkpoint that could easily be cleared out there. Icebreaker with a kind of a bit of a blooper Reef Slider, but it might be okay in their situation. They are able to take 3 members out. The full wipeout is there. Unbelievably, Daybreak will be able to get some room to work with here. This should be a lead change coming up here soon. Smash Brothers gonna be the one in the deficit. They do got a cooler that is available that has just been popped, and now this gives Daybreak a chance to play aggressively.
Yeah, love this use of the Reef Slider there as they get 2 Icebreaker coming off of the rail and popping the Reef Slider immediately, gets the 1 and then follows it up with a quick splat on the second, and that is going to help shut things down. The tower coming back into mid. Ace trying to see if they can find picks. They do have sight over so much of Daybreak. They're playing King of the Hill as Breakdown's going to fall, chasing down, it looks like Break Fast or Breakfast there, seeing if they can find anything. Neku throwing out the Tri-Strike, something we really haven't seen too much of in this set thus far. Windbreak going to find the pick onto Neku there. Mostly just this fighting against each other back and forth in mid. Doesn't matter the map, even if it is a little wonky, as you say, mid is still crucially important, not just for taking the tower back, but for the oversight you have and the overview over the entire rest of the map.
I just realized that when you mentioned the trip strike, yeah, the octo shell was also the other weapon we didn't take full notice of. I was very absorbed on that heavy edit change, but that is exactly true. They got trip strikes that are available, but more importantly, Daybreak are winning some of the fights that they need to win, and that's the second checkpoint going to be cleared out because 3 members have gone down from Smash Brothers, and it's just Linky that was the only one alive and had to retreat for the hills. And this is now the third all-important checkpoint actually coming up here soon, as we get to see a pick, I believe, from the Inkjet. Usually the ballpoint is able to follow suit, but 2 members have dropped. Linky is going to be the one there. Breakfast tried their darnest to try to clear the third checkpoint forcefully, but right away, Icebreaker actually the one swimming right back up to the tower. They actually cleared that checkpoint themselves. It's been nothing but brawls now on the third checkpoint here. Daybreak rides this one all the way home. Zach, I can't believe it. Daybreak stays alive here in the set. They win this game 7.
Disregard convention, I think the name of the game coming out for Daybreak. That's what has helped them to success here. The micro changes, and it was perfectly exemplified in that last sort of push of the tower past checkpoint number 3, where these little skirmishes, again, the micro skirmishes are going on all around the tower. You've got tandem missiles popping up on the tower. You've got folks that can't even climb up the tower because it's sort of elevated at that point, trying to get to the final checkpoint. You've got folks jumping in, but it only takes one. And that one was able to get on the tower and force the members of Smash Brothers back far enough with those sloshes that they could not contest in the last bit of things. You don't ask how, you ask how many, and how many wins that Daybreak has gotten is 2 in a row, 3 in total here, and they are making things very interesting.
You know, Zach, the way this game was playing out, especially with the way the beginning of the set was playing out, was Smash Brothers dominance for what it felt like, especially in the Clan Blitz maps, for sure. Daybreak at least was able to keep it toe-to-toe. Again, the fact they finished the regular season 4-1, we cannot ignore that for sure. I know the way the sets kind of play out feels like, all right, Smash Brothers has stepped up to another level. Daybreak's adaptations were pretty much on point. They're able to win out the fights that they needed to win, and that's the big thing there. Of course, members, I would like to note, Breakfast has been very stable on that roller. We've seen Breakfast time and time again for Daybreak get the picks they need. So that is kind of that has been showing in spades. Daybreak, if they win this one, forces a game 9, which I cannot believe I'm having to say here in this stage, but it's going to be on now this map mode combination, Zach, you and I will be very familiar with. Museum de Alfonsino Rainmaker is going to be the one coming up.
Yeah, you have to sort of measure yourself here because there is a looming threat if you do make it to Game 9, which is that Clan Blitz is the final mode you're going to have to play. And Smash Brothers has looked the best on Clan Blitz. But for now, you have to worry about Game 8 in order to force it. As you mentioned, Rainmaker on Museum de Alfonsino, definitely not unheard of. Some fun things you can do on this map, jumping, of course, from that middle spinner over to the platform of the opposing team. You can also take the more conventional path around the side and up the ramp. We'll see what comes out. The 52 from Ace hangs around as always. The pencil is still there. On the opposite side of things, we are going to see Breakdown once again on the Trinavo. Icebreaker still hanging with that Reef Slider, Dreadringer, and all in all, Daybreak deciding they can go with this sort of shorter range tactical weapon in the Navo and still have great success on the other side for Smash Brothers, seeing the return to the pencil as it helped them in the early part of this set.
Mars back with the pencil. I do understand that substitution as well when we think of the context. Their Humpback Tower Control was a very odd map, so Mars likely just on pencil did he decide, all right, we may just need a different weapon for this particular mode. It really did show there right now. Windbreak trying to stabilize the line here for Daybreak at this stage, but Smash Bros. Is able to stifle them for just a bit. Rainmaker's going to get picked up. They're going to be without Ace for a little bit. Lemon playing this one patiently there, and the cooler being thrown into the front of them. A little bit of a blooper there. They're just going to do this the old-fashioned way now, as there's a lot of space being cleared out. Lemon is still holding on to this Rainmaker for dear life. It's been a chase there from Iceberg trying to see if they can make something happen, but look at the amount of space that Smash Brothers has. They're moving as one unit once more. They get the first checkpoint here, Zach.
Yeah, I'm interested in what happened to that Reef Slider because it was either detonated early or stopped early because the pathing of it looked like they would have been able to catch the Rainmaker off guard despite how much they were backing up. And you have to applaud the patience there that Smash Brothers was showing in that first push. Mars, this is exactly where you want them to set up and why you would think they're bringing the pencil back. Now they're extending their lead to 49. Breakdown, part of the resistance effort, not quite able to take down Ace, who's flanking around to the side, gets the cover of the splash wall, and finally it takes 3 members of Daybreak to chase them down. All the while, Rainmaker shield not popped. You do worry about that as 3 members are not Ace and are able to sort of do other things like come back from spawn in this case, but able to get the cooler down. A couple members grabbing that. The Rainmaker still has not reset. It looks like they may opt to just let it reset. Ace thinking about taking it, and they will. They're actually at the last second able to pick it up. It looks like most of Daybreak pushed forward, so they're not able to contest, and they get just enough leeway, just barely away from breaking into the single digits.
That was tragic if you were Daybreak, because now that what was a surefire reset now is a much bigger deficit, and in this map mode where 12 points remain could be considered by many to be a game-winning push, now you have a lot to deal with if you're Daybreak. Breakdown just having to go from the right-hand side. I think the Rainmaker is just going to be dropped there. I thought it exploded there for a hot second, but no, it looks like it's just dropped. And dude, and I think I saw Ace throw a splash wall to get the clearance that they need. Daybreak over-investing, I believe, on trying to move forward with the Rainmaker resetting. I feel like I've seen that script before, and Smash Brothers in prime position to strike again, and Daybreak just needs to strike back. That's what I'm going to be curious to see if they can make this one count, as Icebreaker trying to see if they can make it happen with the Reef Slider. They are able to. Rainmaker's dropped, but 2 minutes and 10 seconds left to go. That was a great maneuver from Ace earlier.
Yeah, that's the successful Reef Slider that you wanted originally in order to take the Rainmaker down. So the pro is that time is still, allowable for Daybreak to come back. But as you mentioned, Keon, 12 is very difficult to reach on this map unless you're knocking out, and it's basically going to take a knockout as Neku doing everything they can to just lead a path forward for whoever opts to pick that Rainmaker up. Behind them is going to be the Reef Slider from Icebreaker. They move back, the smooth criminal dodge away from it to survive, still somehow living despite all of this action. I cannot believe even getting a slash, not the full 100 damage that you would want on the Inkjet, takes down Windbreak with them. The maneuverability and the actual kills that they're able to get on this weapon. Phenomenal survivability there from Neku.
I feel like this has just been a showcase of players just showing off right now and just making the most out of it. Okay, you got exceptional teamwork, you got exceptional solo play there. Neku staying as alive as they did is nice. And now with about 1 minute and 10 seconds left to go, again, Smash Brothers very much in the driver's seat in terms of points, but they gotta hold the defense a little bit longer. One thing that we saw from the Mahi Zones map earlier, Zach, is that Daybreak is able to fight back, but this is such a tough assignment here, especially with Neku just doing Neku things more or less. I think I saw 2, maybe 3 picks from Neku, and right now Smash Brothers just needs to hold it off for 50 more seconds.
Yeah, this is a question, the answer to which I'm going to have to be proven wrong about, because what is your win condition if you're Daybreak? You have the cooler, of course, which always helps. You have the Reef Slider that once you use it, it is gone in a flash. You have the big bubbler, which can create a little bit of space. And then you have the oversight there, or the sort of aerial maneuverability of the ballpoint that just went down. Lemon is going to be able to get a little bit forward to even stall it, make it that much more difficult. And Ace not afraid to play within the big bubbler, which is now expended in the final 20 seconds. Breakdown going down. There's no specials on the board as Ace can't quite find the last splat there onto Windbreak, but you have to take this Rainmaker all the way from your side of the map to 11 points or better. They're going to go down with 4 seconds remaining, nothing doing, and not enough time to take this one back. Smash Brothers says we will not be taken to the last game of this set. We create our own final game. Smash Brothers, a 5-3 set victory over Daybreak.
Valiant effort from Daybreak this entire set. It felt like they had some clutch moments. They had some big moments too, just being able to win out the mini skirmishes throughout the set here. But at the end of the day, it wasn't Ace this time, I feel like, that did the job. Even though, yes, Ace got it to 12 points remaining, Neku has doing their part to get the picks that they need. This was almost two players just doing their part as aggressively can, with the Mint Decad, the 52 playing as aggressively as they did there. Zach did wonders. Daybreak just couldn't find the answers that they needed. And that was just phenomenal play that we saw from Smash Brothers as well. Again, a lot of credit to Daybreak, but Smash Brothers just played on another level.
Yeah, Mars doing such a great job of backstopping this Smash Brothers composition to victory. You could tell there was a lot of chaos and even uncertainty happening on that Humpback Pump Track map where they did swap in Linky, who did not play poorly by any stretch, but it was just not the same impact as the Pencil was able to have in the games where Mars was there. And Neku kind of coming out of their shell over the last few games. Ace certainly the cover star in the first sort of 5 games of this set, but in those final 3, sneakily, Neku coming back and making the hero plays. Lemon also doing a wonderful job. They were the consistency there of displacing the members of Daybreak, especially with those Tena missiles and the vertical flicks that they were able to get with that Flings a Roller. A super well built composition and a very well earned victory from Smash Brothers, despite, as you mentioned, some great fight back and tenacity from Daybreak. They really showed moments of brilliance, especially in their final two victories that they got in this set.
So I'm gonna say one real quick thing here, Zach, as well, with Daybreak's tenacity and just honestly the great composition and play overall from Smash Brothers. I think I've been informed the CCA tradition. You may as well go to Game 9 if you already made it to Game 8. Why cut yourself short here too? Again, the tradition is gonna loom large. Again, I think that's what the confirmation is so far, but waiting to hear on that. But more importantly, we did get a little bit of a snippet. By the way, thanks to the TOs and the production crew for citing this, because there was Daybreak who apparently the fun facts is they love aerospray, and it showed in spades, of course. There, but Smash Brothers again from Binghamton University, their first ever Splatoon team, but one player Ace. As you know how there was that Ace kind of played at a whole nother level. They played comp for what I think they played competitive for at least 10 years from what I'm reading here as well. If I read that text correctly, so that kind of it might have shown why Ace has done so well there in that set alone. Obviously, they're playing this less stressful, still want to make it fun and satisfying. I feel like that's just the true appeal of Collegiate. And I guess Zach, as I noted before, if you made it all the way here, you may as well try to take this one home in this play all 9 for the tradition. So I want to see what's out here.
If I'm being honest, I'm a little sad that the compositions are getting a bit goofier in nature. I want to see these two teams try their hardest on the final game. I want to see, this has been such a nice back and forth area that I love the aggression and how close these two teams have played each other back and forth. But some fun changes here. We see the heavy splatling come out. We see the end zap. That's going to be their now new tactical or weapon of choice, the vanilla explosher. We got to see the custom earlier, and the ink brush, as well as the return of the carbon deco, which, as we know, can do some dangerous things from an offensive perspective.
So much what if scenarios in play is if they actually ever made it to if the set for whatever reason ended early, would they have just been goofing off the same, or would we'd have seen the same serious comps the entire way through? That's kind of what I'm curious to see here. And yeah, Zach, so I'd imagine the assignment's going to be pretty obvious. Daybreak try to end this one off on a really strong note, and Smash Brothers trying to cement why they are a Division 2 team to fear, of course, is the best takeaway I can get. Even if the comps are silly, I feel like that's going to be the message we're going to get from the CCA tradition. So I kind of want to see with these, I dare I say, not usual weapons that we have seen throughout the set. See who comes out on in the unusual game so far here in the tradition.
Yeah, despite them not being usual, I certainly have seen some very dangerous players with weapons like the ink brush come out. It's such a tough weapon to go up against when they get up close and personal. They can carve a lot of space freely. They are not locked to the same sort of ink or space conventions that a lot of other weapons are, because they can just maneuver around so quickly. But this is more the pacing that I would expect from a Clam Blitz game traditionally. In the first two that we saw, we had pretty instant, and by instant I mean, minute 10, minute 15 pops of the barricade. Now this one gone about to a minute 45 without anything happening, and right now Daybreak is in control. We've seen this before though, getting up now to 15 clams. Daybreak going to be bringing out the Trizuka, seeing if they can get anyone there. Not able to find the shots that they need, maybe a bit of indirect damage, but not the full KO. Breakfast backstopping things, as you can see just how much pain this Explosher is outputting. Not many areas are safe. Breakfast alongside the Trinavo also going to fall, and yet again we see Daybreak with a ton of clams under their belt not get to use them the way they want to.
That's kind of felt like the story for most of what Daybreak played in the Clam Blitz matchups that we saw, which was Scorch Gorge and Umami Ruins, was large clam economy, if you will, large amount of clams even, but just nothing going for just trying to get the push started here, and it feels so weird, Zach. I'm not gonna lie, just to see no scores on the board coming into this Clam Blitz matchup here in Barnacle and Dime. So want to see if Daybreak's trying to move forward. Looks like they were looking for the opportunity. They should be able to. Neku goes down. We get our first score of the game, and it is gonna be the first power clam being chucked in. The second one should be coming up here soon. And now the full wipe out there. Smash Brothers not able to get much out of that on defense, but there's no clams available. So Zach, likely that will be the end of that one. But 2 power clams in. At least Daybreak's got to feel great about that push.
Almost feels like the same mantra as procrastination. To break it, the hardest part is just getting started. And for Daybreak, the hardest part is just getting that first power clam into the basket. They were pretty immediately able to follow that one up with a second. They were sitting on 7 for so long, waiting for the barricade to be broken, that they were instantly ready to get that second one in, and now have carved themselves out a lead with not that much time left. But Ali and a lot of the rest of Smash Brothers going to be with the tactical buff at the ready. It's a 1v1 trade, but Smash Brothers going to have the reinforcements earlier as a result. Daybreak seeing if they can come back with a bit of a stalwart defense here. 9 clams at the ready. Now 12 on the side of Smash Brothers. So this is consistent with the way that they played, especially in game 1. Even if they do lose a little bit of ground, be the team that quickly bounces back, waste no time in getting back to mid, building up those specials. We see yet another of those tacticalers come out from Ace. They do lose a member there in their Carbon Deco, but sitting on still quite a few clams that they're trying to juggle about, losing a couple members there. Time, though, not their friend as of right now.
I'm not on the friend of Smash Brothers side, so they want to make this the unofficial 6 wins. They gotta see if they can get this push going here with about 45 seconds left on the clock. Ace is gonna be the one holding on to this. Holding on to this power clam, excuse me, for that matter. 2 power clams are going to be available, so they will have the conditions they need to swipe lead. Now, Daybreak's just going to have to be the one slowly retreating here at the stage. This has been a very neutral game with no ground being gained here, and it looks like it's going to be a trade 1-for-1 on both sides, so it's still going to be as neutral as they can possibly get here. Zach, as the paintbrush, the brush itself was able to get a pick just like that, but really 15 seconds left to go. Zach, we kind of been stuck in a bit of a neutral stance for a bit.
And Smash Brothers, that's really tough for them. They had at one point 25 power clams or total clams under their belt, including power clams. 5 seconds left to go. They are so far back into their own end that it is going to be difficult to make it out. Ali, of course, helping to force overtime, being one of 2 members alongside Ace to hold on to a power clam. It's just about how can they get through here. They are able to get a pick there onto the roller. They don't have any specials and lose their own roller. They're going down in droves. It's just Neku left.
Nope.
Can't survive a full wipeout. And for all intents and purposes, Daybreak helps take this one the distance with this match included, or this game rather. 5-4, the final score. Very close set. This is exactly what I would expect from the CCA playoffs. Get ready for much more in the coming weeks.
The official record stands 5-3, but honestly, Zach, if again, we can throw in all the what if scenarios, the choose your own adventure scripts here, because hey, what if they did play the familiar weapons? Would we have seen a totally different script? But for Daybreak, honestly, good. If you're gonna end your season on a dub, you may as well make it happen here, because again, a season that cut short by game 8, making that the 5-3 scoreline officially. That's gonna be how your season ends if you're Daybreak, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, hailing from the University of there it is, University of Texas at Austin, a UTA team as well. So I'm good. Hey, Daybreak played valiantly here. Want to touch on a few quick things here, Zach, as well, because we did get the keys to victory for Smash Brothers is moving quickly and taking and winning fights quickly. They did that in droves throughout some of their wins. Not over push. Kind of, it was definitely somewhat controlled during a few moments, and then of course the cooler plus missiles equals free push. That was their third thing. I think they nailed a majority of their keys there to take home the set, even as close as it was.
The consistency, as you mentioned, is so critical to the way that they perform. They have this sort of 1-1-2 lineup, if you will, with the 2 being their skirmisher and slayer in the front. They've got that sort of mid-range. They have Lemon there a lot of times who can sort of flex between the front and the mid. They're using those Tenna missiles quite a bit to sort of scout and displace. And then you have Mars most of the time as your sort of anchor player, also supporting with the tactical or spotting out, using that exceptional range to have an impact. And they did that so nicely, especially in the first half of that set, and emphatically in game 8, as you mentioned, to make the official scoreline 5-3. And they are awaiting the winner of 2 teams that, again, unlike this match that we just saw, which was between teams from different groups, the winner and the team that they'll be playing in the semifinals for Smash Brothers is coming from the same group. So in group 3, I believe, of Division 2, you have 2 California-based teams coming after the playoffs here. You're going to have refrunners coming out of California State Polytechnic University in Pomona, who are taking on the California Rollers, who are out of UC Berkeley. So that's going to be super interesting. Exactly, I think, in this match, coming back to this set, what we expected. so back and forth, so fun to watch between two teams that were very hard to defeat. Not impossible, but very hard to defeat during the regular season. And as we get into the semifinals and eventually finals, only going to get more difficult from here on out.
This is going to be a fun road here. We covered Division 2 quarterfinals. That was a fun matchup to watch, but Smash Brothers, of course, await the winner of the California duel there with Reef Runners and California Rollers as well. Zach, we got to witness a fun Division 2 quarterfinals matchups here today, but that's going to be it for us on the IPL side. CCA actually does have some additional games on that front, so most likely we'll send you there. If not, well, just go to CC_Splatoon. Real quickly, though, Zach, where can the people find you?
Over on Twitter and Blue Sky at Shiny Hunter Zach. It's been a blast. We got more action coming your way. Keon, same question to you. Where can the folks find you?
Same deal. Blue Sky, well, actually, similar deal, I'll say. Blue Sky and Twitch, of course, is going to be Killen2570. You can find me on Twitter, mostly sporadically posting there as well. Our producer, of course, Pipe Dream, taking us all the way home here on the CCA side. That's going to do it for all of us here. This is with my commentary partner, Zach. And, of course, our producer, Pipe Dream. This is Killen saying, have a good rest of your week coming up. And, of course, if you're a college student, please remember to study for finals if it's looming large. We'll see you guys next week, same time, for more playoff action.